As the darkness settled over the countryside, I found myself on a desolate stretch of road, far from the comforting glow of city lights. The only illumination came from my car's headlights, cutting through the thick, inky blackness that surrounded me. I had been driving for hours, and fatigue was starting to gnaw at my senses. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel as I pushed onward, determined to reach my destination. The radio was my only companion, crackling with static as it scanned through channels in search of a signal. The sound was eerie, like whispers from another world, and I couldn't help but shiver as I turned it off. I was alone, and the solitude was starting to play tricks on my mind. As I drove deeper into the night, the road seemed to stretch on endlessly. The trees on either side of the asphalt loomed like ancient sentinels, their branches clawing at the sky. The occasional glimpse of a nocturnal creature darting across the road added to my unease. But it was the silence that was most unsettling, broken only by the distant hum of my car's engine. Then, in the distance, I saw it. A dim, flickering light. Relief washed over me as I realized it was the sign for a gas station. My fuel gauge was hovering dangerously close to empty, and I couldn't have been more grateful for the sight. I pulled into the dimly lit station, the tires crunching on gravel as I parked beside the solitary pump. The gas station was a relic from another era, its faded signage hinting at a time when it had been bustling with activity. Now, it stood like a forgotten shrine in the middle of nowhere. I stepped out of the car, the cold night air biting at my skin. The wind whispered through the trees, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I picked up the old, rusty nozzle and began to fill my tank. The gasoline gushed into the car with a satisfying sound, but my eyes were drawn to the eerie silence that enveloped the station. There were no other cars, no other customers, and no attendant. It was as if the world had abandoned this place. As I stood there, I heard a faint sound, almost like a whisper, coming from behind the station's decrepit building. My curiosity got the better of me, and I followed the sound. I crept around the corner, my heart pounding in my chest. What I saw froze me in my tracks. There, in the flickering light of a dying bulb, was a group of people. They were dressed in tattered, old-fashioned clothing, and their faces were obscured by shadows. They huddled together, muttering incoherently, their voices carrying an air of ancient despair. A shiver ran down my spine as I watched them. Something was terribly wrong. I took a step back, my foot crunching on gravel, and they all turned to stare at me with empty, soulless eyes. My breath caught in my throat, and I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet. I fled from the gas station, leaving the nozzle abandoned in my car's gas tank. Panic consumed me as I raced back to my car, jumped in, and slammed the door shut. I didn't even bother to remove the nozzle properly. I just wanted to get away from that place, from those eerie, spectral figures. As I sped away, the headlights of my car cast long, distorted shadows that danced on the edges of my vision. I couldn't shake the feeling that those haunting figures were still watching me, their presence lingering in the rearview mirror. I drove on, my heart pounding, my mind racing. The road seemed to stretch on forever, and I had no idea where I was heading. The darkness pressed in on all sides, and the solitude was suffocating. The radio crackled back to life, but the voices that came through were distorted and otherworldly. They whispered my name, and I felt a cold sweat break out on my brow. The headlights suddenly flickered and then died, plunging me into total darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my phone, desperate for any source of light. When I finally managed to turn on the flashlight, I gasped in horror at what I saw. The road in front of me had vanished. Instead, there was only a yawning chasm, a gaping maw of darkness that seemed to stretch on forever. My car teetered on the edge, the wheels inches from oblivion. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. My car lurched forward, and I felt myself falling into the abyss. I awoke with a start, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. It had all been a dream, a nightmare, a trick of my sleep-deprived mind. I was safe in my own bed, the soft glow of city lights seeping through my curtains. Relief washed over me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me back from that nightmarish road. I couldn't explain it, but I knew deep down that the terror I had experienced was more than just a dream. The memory of those eerie figures, the whispers in the darkness, and the endless road haunted me, leaving me with a chilling certainty that some horrors are not confined to the realm of sleep.